Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Olivet City Council meeting tonight. It's March 8th, 2022 at 7:02. And we're in the City Hall. Would you please take the roll call?
Okay, Councilmember Carl,
Here.
Councilmember Waldman,
Here.
Councilmember Knox,
Here.
Chairman Weil.
Here. The mayor will be late or he had a conflict that arose suddenly. So I will lead the meeting until he gets here.
Right.
Item number 2.
Item number 2, communications. We have no written communications this evening.
Item number 3, please.
City managers report.
Evening. I need to share my screen here, sorry. Right. It's a new month and we have our March 4th update on the community center and Worson Park improvements. That's the new community center and all the park improvements along with the Centennial Greenway portion within the park. We are the contractors going to start needing to be making up kind of some days here. There've been some lost days to weather, etc. But they will. Did you have a question, Councilmember Knox? Nope. They will be, but it's within there. It's on them to kind of make up the time. We don't actually have weather days the way we negotiated this contract. So the work that they have completed, they have the base down and they have started, they have the delivery of the foundation rebar. They don't have the rebar in. They have started doing some work though on the foundation. The council passed a couple weeks ago some change orders. Most of those have been, addressed. There's some other possible change orders coming before us. None of them very big. In fact, some of these have already been in front of the council. We at this point kind of, we have the schedule is somewhat of a risk on our part. The maintenance building, it's getting in the steel, making sure that remains on schedule. It's just making sure kind of everything kind of remains on schedule. We have some good days coming up this week. I'm anticipating we'll see more movement. I think once it kind of starts really moving, it'll go pretty more rapidly. And when you see the owner's responsibilities, you see the indoor playground equipment, coordination of the installation and construction of that. The furniture procurement, we've selected, that'll be up in an update coming up with, to work with Color Art on that. The IT networking, the finance director, Darren Mann, has is continuing to kind of knock things off of that list. And then the fitness equipment, where we're really just finalizing now the purchase and lease, how we're going to pay for it. All the items have been identified, and so I anticipate that coming before the council at your next meeting. So all in all, things are going pretty well. We just need a few nice days. And these are pictures of the progress that's being made at that area. There's a lot to do with the community center, with the new community center. Just kind of bringing folks up to speed. I talked a little bit about the furniture and the art. We'll be working with Color Art to do the upfit for that. We put out an RFQ for, and we interviewed 4 companies and went with Color Art. They're actually off of Worson, very near the new community center. We have I think tomorrow is our first meeting with them. Branding and marketing. We've started working with Pfister Inc. on branding and marketing materials. Pfister Inc. is who has done the work on the newsletters and incorporating that kind of style. So they are very familiar with our with the rules associated with our fonts, it's color palettes, etc. Programming and membership fees. A small group, working group of the Park and Recreation Commission is reviewing kind of program membership fees. Those will be obviously presented to the council for approval. Pretty much everything here gets presented to the council. I guess that's just staffing. City staff continues to draft position descriptions for new positions. You've got one on the agenda tonight for a second reading. And I anticipate we'll have more that will probably coordinate those with our budget process and the salary range as we go through the budget process. So that we'll be bringing the rest of these up, I anticipate, more as a group. And then new policies and practices. We'll need to be developing, implementing a lot of new policies, procedures as necessary. Again, when we moved from the old city hall to this building, there was a lot to get used to, a lot of changes we needed to do. The new building impacted how we operated. This is even a little bigger than that because it's new programming. It's different from what we've been doing. And so it will be, it continues to be a lot of work to be done. And kudos to Park and Rec Director Beverly Tucker Knight. She's done a great job with regard to outlining the task and keeping timelines, et cetera, because there is quite a bit of work to do. One of the things that is different with this than what we didn't add staff here. We didn't have new programming here. So one of the things that's different is knowing kind of when do we bring people on. We want people on so that when we open up, everybody's ready, but you don't want to bring people on too early or too late. And so it's a lot of timing going on with that. And I just want to say that it's really been a while. The Park and Recreation Administration, Beverly Tucker Knight and Donna Chance are doing a lot of the work. There's also not much of this that is being facilitated by the finance director, Darren Mann. We have relied on Bruce McGregor, Public Works Director, for a number of things as we get into the building and the groundwork and with questions, et cetera. The planning department, Carlos Trejo, reviews the plans and is being brought on. So we've gotten the police involved because we continue to have issues with people walking their dogs in the construction area. And so it really is one of those things where you realize that, it's not one department's projects, it's everybody's, everybody gets to share in the load. Hankins Construction has begun preparations for improvements in the parks. They're starting to put up snow fencing in Stacy Park. We anticipate that Stacy Park parking lot will be closed beginning March 21st. And we've been in conversations with the Old Bonham School on that. Looking to maybe meet with them to see how we can help. They do use that parking lot. But this project isn't new. We knew, or they've been aware of the project. We've had many conversations about it. And so we'll be working with them on their, helping them look at other areas, but we can't have public in there because a lot of the work they're going to be doing initially is going to be some of that storm management and stormwater work that is in that parking lot as they redo that parking lot. Another thing that's been happening in the Parks Department, you see that picture on the right, those are two of our, it's one of park maintenance and our horticulturist. And they're cleaning everything out of that, out of the Stacy Park Pavilion in that kitchen area where we keep a lot of supplies for camps. We keep a lot of supplies for the turkey trot. We keep a lot of supplies for the park there, but it all needs to be moved out because they're going to be taking off that end of the pavilion and redoing all the bathrooms in that whole area. And so storage is now an issue because, as you know, we got rid of the old maintenance house that was demoed so we could begin the other project. We don't have the new one done yet because that got delayed with regard to changing. We were looking at a metal building that was going to take too long to get in. So we've gone into a construction building that we're constructing, but that has its delays as well. So when you walk into the community center, you see some things in the middle there that say, with signs that say, please excuse our our mess, because we really are having just moving a lot of things around. It's like when you move, if you've been in a house for a long time and you move, you have a lot of stuff, and we don't have any kids to give it to. So Villa Park, they've also, you can see that they put up some fencing there as well. I think that has somewhat more to do with some of the tree protection at this point. And then Indian Meadows, they just have the construction sign up there. And I'm not exactly sure how they're starting that. They are moving. Hankins is their schedule is pretty aggressive. They do have a meeting with their subs this week. I think it was supposed to happen today. So we may have some realignment of the dates, but really, if you look at their schedule right now, they'll have most of these parks, completed. What was it, Darren, by June? And by June, and then they'll start Irvside in after that. So like in July. The idea being that we could, try to get as much done, keep Irvside open because it also has a bigger pavilion for people to use. So that's the plan, and hopefully that'll work out. Irvington Rhyme, if you've been in that area, you'll see that there's not much there. They're doing a lot of cleanup and the clearing of the area. And I think once that gets clear, they're going to be moving pretty quickly. And I know they have meetings scheduled with our planning director, Carlos Trejo. And so we don't really have a time frame right now, but we will know a little bit more at your next meeting. We did hire a building inspector, Orlando Mack. You'll meet him probably at the next meeting or the one after that, where it's a little bit unclear depending on where people are. He actually started yesterday in the building inspector 1 position. We do continue to partner with the IBTS, and that's a firm out of Kansas City that does permitting. They work nationally, but they do permitting and inspection services. We'll continue to use them during Orlando's onboarding because you can't just kind of all of a sudden can't just pick up all the needs that we have on day 2. And we were already pretty crunched with all the permits, just residential and commercial coming in. So welcome to Orlando. On other kind of personnel news, we have a promotional process underway in the fire department. A vacancy that was created by when Captain Fain became Assistant Chief Fain. They'll be filling that. We have a hiring process underway for courts for a new assistant court clerk. We have a hiring process for police. We're struggling to get just applications and people in the position. We've got 3 positions open right now. We're looking for both certified and non-certified candidates at this point. And so if we have a non-certified candidate, that means we'll be putting them through the academy. We do have 1 person in the academy now. And so that also adds to the, so we have a position filled, but person's not really working yet. And this is a struggle across the country. We have a hiring process underway in the Park and Recreation Department. Those are for the 2 kind of new positions and the vacant recreation coordinator position. I anticipate we'll have those filled pretty quickly. Maybe at the next meeting, we'll be able to announce the candidates on that. And I think what this page shows you is that really Bruce McGregor is he keeps his staff happy. He has no vacancies. So congratulations, Bruce. Summer camps, as a reminder, sign up early, sign up often. Summer camps, they will be full before you know it. And then we have some meetings coming up. The Park and Recreation meeting had been moved from the 16th to the 9th, for tomorrow night, but it now has been canceled as well. They'll be looking for another date for this month's Park and Recreation Commission meeting. The Planning and Community Design Commission will meet March 17th at 7 p.m. The City Council regular meeting will be March 22nd at 7 p.m. We have a council work session April 5th at 7 p.m. Planning and Community Design Commission April 7th at 7 p.m. And I am assuming we are on for a council retreat on April 2nd at 12 p.m. Is that correct for everybody?
Yes.
Yes. All right, perfect, wonderful. And that is all I have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for City Manager? Councilmember Knox, do you have any questions, or Councilmember Carl?
I have no questions, no.
And neither do I.
Councilmember Waldman?
Thank you, madam. Barb, Stacy Park lot closed. Does that mean the park itself will be closed to the public? Or if you can walk, you can get in? What's the status on that?
We'll be having, and I thought I had a map to use tonight and I didn't have it. I couldn't find the one I thought. What we're going to be doing is the parking lot will be closed. Actually, prior to that, a section of the park will be closed, like from the parking lot south, right before the play structure.
Mhm.
So people to enter the park and to play on, they'll be able to play on the play structure, will go through, there is an entrance off of Old Bonham at the curve,
Yeah.
where Old Bonham curves, and there's an entrance into the park at that southern, it's a southern gate,
Mhm.
and we'll have that open
Okay,
for people.
okay, okay. For people, not cars, or,
No cars.
yeah, okay.
If people come to the park, they'll need to either find another parking area, or they can walk or bike or.
Yeah, because even Old Bonham is under their construction, and their space of parking.
Correct.
Has lessened, is very limited. Okay, thank you for that. The new, it's identified as a new assistant court clerk, new position, or we are finally filling a position, full-time or part-time?
That is a part-time position. This was a position we have had in the past. We didn't fill it for a period of time during COVID because they weren't holding court. There weren't as many tickets, et cetera. And then we filled in when they started back up. Bridget Waters filled in, but now we need to get her back into the job.
Yeah, we're getting back to
And she
normal.
was
Okay,
hired for, and then we'll be hiring that court clerk.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Those are my questions. Thank you, Madam Pro Tem.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 4, city council reports.
Councilmember Carl, have you been to any meetings this past 2 weeks?
Yes, I have. On February 28th, I went to the Economic Development Commission meeting, and they discussed both the business communication plan and the 5-year economic development plan. If you want to take a look at those documents, just go to that agenda and they're listed there. You can click on them. Take a look at the communication plan. I believe it's just been updated by Kiana a little bit, or it looks great anyway. And I would like to say hello to Mr. Burdish. It sounded like he was there. So that's all I have. Maxine, you're on mute, or I can't hear you.
Councilmember Knox,
I have nothing to report.
Councilmember Waldman,
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Several things. On February 24th, 2022, as I briefly mentioned at our workshop, I attended the Municipal League meeting by Zoom, of which there were several items on the agenda. Part of it was the road funding and what was shared, and then Ms. Sondag clarified at our last workshop with regard to what funds are, what can and cannot be considered as augmenting funding of other projects with regard to the funds. I mean, when I went to the meeting, it was no MoDOT funds, and that was clarified. So that was one of the confusing things that occurred at the municipal league. The other thing that they're talking about is the use tax that will be coming on and be voted on for multiple municipalities, all that we do have a use tax already. So we're rather one step ahead on that situation. There are 3 seats open at the municipal league on their board, and if you're interested, you know, your applications are due, I believe now they've up it to April 4th. So far, the Senate has passed only 2 bills because they're all having their infighting with regards to the new boundaries, and that is summarized in our regular communications from our local municipal league. That meeting, I told Mr. Martin that I would give him a little heads up, but at that meeting, they spoke of a fencing change. And I kind of sent that summary to Mr. Martin that there was a bill that was passed that keeps municipality fences from being governed by us, the council, but remains germane for subdivisions. And Creve Coeur removed their language and adopted the current law. And because they are our neighbor, and I believe Carl Lumley, who you know well, sir, presented on this, my inquiry to sir, where are we as a city ourselves with regard to this law and fencing, sir?
I was going to go ahead and address that during my report.
Okay,
Is that all right?
that's fine. Sure, absolutely, absolutely. And then last but not least, I attended the Planning and Community Design Commission. Was it March 3rd? Was it March 3rd? Wow. Wow. Sitting here right in front of my face. So I attended the Planning Community Design Commission on March 3rd. It was a rather long meeting, important conversations and discussions. One with regard to Olivet Townhouses redevelopment, which is right across the street from City Hall here. Other included discussions about 1220 North Price and the consideration of a special permit use with regards to the potential of a business taking the old Southern Comfort Building and turning it into a business for themselves. Some people attended that meeting and there was no negative comments with regards to the business. And they were very grateful that this business was going around and talking with the community and getting their input with regards to any features, if there were to be any detectable smells or things that were a bit of a nuisance. So with that, Mr. Carlos Trejo always does a wonderful report to the council, and we could go to that report and look at the entire summary that Mr. Trejo provides. Thank you so much. That's my report.
I have not attended any additional meetings since the last meeting.
Oh, Madam Mayor, I do have one more thing. At the municipal league, they also talked about Steinberg skating rink.
Yes.
And that they're dealing with aesthetics and structural components and changes is what they want to do. And the real question was, would we ourselves be willing to be part of that push with regards to Steinberg, letting the community know and supporting the need to get the input from citizens, whether it be through the survey or coming to their open meeting sessions that they're going to have. So this is a council decision as to whether we want to ask our communications director and our city to be part of that push. Thank you.
No, I saw it somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was on our city or with the municipal league, but.
Yeah, I mean, there's still plenty of time. It's
Yeah.
just a question whether the council wants to consider putting that and having us push it.
So we can bring that up at our retreat, I believe, or at our workshop. We'll start with the attendees online that are zooming in tonight. Is anyone wanting to be brought over for the hearing from citizens? We'd want you to state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes to share your concerns and or feedback. Or anyone in the house that would like to. Okay, we'll start with online. Do any of our attendees online want to? Just raise your hand or indicate. Okay, no? Okay, Mr. Burdish?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Morton Burdish, 8829 Chisholm Court. I've been a resident of Olivet since 1970. Well, my present home since 1976. 72 is when I moved to Olivet. I've donated about 30 years of community service to the city of Olivet. Basically, I'm here tonight to talk about a park for Hilltop. I know it's a long and drawn out deal, but our neighborhood is growing. We have more kids than ever before. We're gonna have a new apartment complex going up. And also there's some new homes that are going up in the neighborhood. And we really would appreciate getting a park there. I know I've been bailing it for umpteen years. And unfortunately for me, my health is not as good as it used to be. My health is waning. I don't know if you know, but I had a heart attack. I was in the hospital 6 times. I lost all the toes of my right foot. And I'm in dialysis, so I'm having a hard time. So anyhow, we could really use a park in our neighborhood. And I noticed recently that the county council gave $250,000 to Kinloch to fix their park. So maybe if there was a money issue for a park, maybe we could ask them for some money as well. Really would appreciate it. I know I've been up here a lot talking about it, but I think it would improve the neighborhood and also bring more revenue to the city. And I know the more houses and more residents you have in an area, you get more tax money as well. That's all I got to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burdish. And we wish you a full recovery. Next item, please.
Item number 6 is bill number 2969, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2734 in reference to the adoption of a certain salary schedule. Second reading. Okay. Again, kind of talked earlier. This was actually supposed to, well, this was for one of the new positions. We have a new position in the Park and Recreation Department, and that is Guest Services Supervisor. That is a new position that is created for with the need of the new community center when it comes online, as we will need someone who actually is just focusing on the memberships and the responsibilities to the people who come to the new facility. What the council is asked to do, it's kind of funny in that you'll recall at the February 22nd, we had requested a first and second. The council would prefer to do it separately as a first reading and then a second reading. And I apologize, I should have changed that title. But what we are really asking for is for that position to be entered into the salary scale. We have the position description, as you can see, but what we're really amending here is the salary scale. We already had a recreation supervisor position, and we're just going to be fitting this person or this position in on that same level. And if you recall at that meeting on February 22nd, the council felt comfortable with us moving forward with the advertising of the position. We wouldn't be doing any hiring until this had been adopted and by the council. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
So Barb, we sit on the same level. That still identifies two positions under that yellow highlighted area on your tier, correct?
It would be a recreation supervisor and a guest services supervisor. Yes, two different positions.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
But that would only be one additional position, correct?
It's one new position. The
Right.
recreation supervisor, we've had that position for a while. We've not had it filled. So it
Right.
would be an additional FTE.
Great. Councilmember Carl or Councilmember Knox, do you have any questions?
I do not.
I do not.
I call for the question. I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, or excuse me, Madam Chairman Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve Bill 2969, an ordinance amending ordinance 2734 in reference to the adoption of a certain salary schedule.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes,
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes,
Councilmember Knox,
Yes,
Chairman Weil.
Yes,
Motion passed by action of the Olivet City Council. Bill number 2969 becomes ordinance number 2741.
next item, please.
Item number 7, bill number 2970, an ordinance to approve a final subdivision plat titled Olivet Terrace, lots 11 through 15 boundary adjustment. Second reading.
Mr.
Good
Trejo.
evening, Mayor. My name is Carlos Trejo. I'm Director of Planning and Community Development for the City of Olivet. And tonight I present to you Bill 2970, which would adopt a final subdivision plat for the plat titled Olivet Terrace lots 11 through 15 boundary adjustment. This will authorize the recording of the legal instrument that will go to St. Louis County Recorder of Deeds and physically create the lots. The subdivision consists of four lots that replace 3 existing lots on the property grounds. 2 were improved and 1 was a vacant piece of property. I'd be glad to answer any specific questions. The commission did review the preliminary subdivision plat and the final subdivision plat that's before the council tonight on January 17th and forward a recommendation for approval.
Is there any question? Oh, first, I'm sorry. I'd like to entertain a motion before we have discussion.
Madam Mayor, or excuse me, Madam Chairman Pro Tem, I make a motion to adopt Bill 2970, an ordinance to approve a final subdivision plat titled Olivet Terrace lots 11 through 15 boundary adjustment.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, I'd be happy to entertain a discussion. Are there any questions for Mr. Trejo? Prior to the motion, you had started to show us the plat. Could we see that for a moment? I think Barb had it up. Sure. Just in case anyone wanted to review where it's at.
Locations on the southern terminus of Dolores Avenue, which is located on the east side of Olive Boulevard, on the south end of the street, right behind the Price Crossing development and north of Villa Park.
Unfortunately, I was not at the last meeting when you did the first reading.
Mhm.
Will this back up to Villa Park or does this back up to Price Crossing?
The existing lot that is the furthest north, which is labeled as Lot A, actually backs up to Price Crossing, just a segment of it.
Okay,
Majority of the other lots back up to Price Meadows Court, which is off of Price Road.
oh, okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Okay, very good. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Trejo? You want to add something? Okay. We've had a motion, we've had a second. So ask the city clerk to please call for the vote.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes,
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
yes,
Chairman Weil.
Yes,
Motion passed by action of the Olivet City Council. Bill number 2970 becomes ordinance number 2742.
thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 8 is bill number 2971, an ordinance amending Article 8A CC City Center District being part of Chapter 400 zoning regulations of Title IV Land Use of the Olivet Municipal Code regarding multifamily residential land uses. Second reading and public hearing.
Okay, I'd like to open for a public hearing and ask Mr. Trejos to please share with us.
Good evening, Chairman Pro Tem, members of the council. Again, my name is Carlos Trejo. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development for the city of Olivet. And tonight, public hearing is proposed before you to amend Chapter 400, the city's zoning regulations, specifically Article Roman numeral 8A, which is the CC City Center District. Essentially, what this amendment would do would allow would allow multifamily developments to be built on lots 40,000 square feet or greater. How do we get to that 40,000 square feet, and what is the purpose of the CC City Center District? The CC City Center District is intended to further the visions of the 2006 Comprehensive Plan, proactively implement the plan to achieve a dynamic sense of place, to implement the goals and objectives for a city center as illustrated in our comprehensive plan, and to further the city's focus on community development, economic development, transportation connections, and public spaces. Currently, under the permitted land uses, multifamily residential is authorized, but it has to be mixed use. As you look at the illustrations in the city center district, the city center district is more than just providing redevelopment along Olive Boulevard, like you've seen with the Oliver. Mixed use along Olive Boulevard is a good use of property because you are on a major highway. And we facilitated that with the Oliver by including the 3,500 square foot commercial building that will be included in that development that was through a request for proposals. But as you get further from Olive Boulevard, including retail uses in multifamily properties, make the possibility of it being market driven more difficult. What this ordinance would do would continue to allow for a development to be solely of multifamily use like townhouses to be considered in a rezoning process in the city center district. The minimum lot area for a city center property or development area is 40,000 square feet, and that's how that number comes about. This amendment will help facilitate the Olivet Townhouse development that's being discussed before the Planning and Community Design Commission. And this has been reviewed by the city's Planning and Community Design Commission. On February 17, 2022, the commission voted to forward a recommendation to the council for approval of this hearing. In addition, we have posted this public hearing notice in the St. Louis Countian, which is our legal paper of record. It was posted on February 21st, 2022, or published on February 21st, 2022. Be glad to answer any specific questions regarding that. You have a copy of the PCDC report regarding that in your packet. And Chairman Pro Tem, if I can ask to enter some items into the record, being that we're in public hearing.
Yes, please.
Those items would be the 2006 comprehensive plan, the public hearing and the affidavit of publication on February 21st, 2022, the staff memorandum dated February 17th, 2022 to the Planning and Community Design Commission, the Olivet Municipal Code and zoning map, and of course, the presentation material that was provided in your packets dated March 8th, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Trejo.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second, which will be followed by discussion and a vote.
Madam Chairman Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve Bill 2971, an ordinance amending Article 8A CC Community Center District being part of Chapter 400 zoning regulations of Title IV Land Use of the Olivet Municipal Code regarding multifamily residential land uses.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Is there any comments or questions for Mr. Trejo?
I really just have a question with regard to whether there was anyone that wanted to comment during the public hearing portion of this item.
There is no one on.
Okay, okay,
No one voted.
okay, very good. All right, that was all. Thank you. I've been
That's
through
why I
this.
skipped
Yeah,
over that.
Sure, okay.
Or any of the, do any of the council members have any questions?
I do not.
I do not.
Then let's proceed with the vote, please.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman.
Yes,
Councilmember Knox,
Yes,
Chairman Weil.
Yes,
Motion passed by action of the Olivet City Council. Bill number 2971 becomes ordinance number 2743.
Thank you, Chairman.
next item, please.
Item number 9 is resolution number 2022-220. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an easement deed and agreement with the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District for a tract of land within the Indian Meadows Park.
Great. Good evening, Mr. McGregor.
Good evening, council members. Nice to see everybody. I think, Barb, you have that overall graphic that shows the project limits. Before we get into the details of the easement agreement, I thought it would be good to frame in some context for the overall Price to Pioneer Relief Project. And say that I started this communicating with MSD and the design team before COVID was even a word, is how long we've been working on this. It was attached to the email as a graphic in there, so it wouldn't be in the PDF. It would be in the email I sent you. So let's start with what is a relief project. So a relief project adds additional capacity to the sewer system so that it can receive more flow. Basically, they're putting in a bigger pipe. And this is part of the consent decree between MSD and the EPA to get rid of what we call sanitary sewer overflows. What an overflow is a relief point. It's a place for the pipes to release sewage, usually into a stream, before the pipes back up and put sewage into houses through a flooded basement. Okay, so it doesn't happen very often, but when you get high impulse rains and storm water infiltrates the sanitary sewer system, those pipes cannot handle the groundwater, the storm water from the rain and the additional sewage. So the pipes become surcharged and they need to find a relief point before they go into people's houses. Okay, so in Indian Meadows, we have several residents in the Grandview area down in the lower end who have backflow preventers on their sanitary laterals so that when there is a surcharge on the system, their basements don't fill up with sewage. Okay, so this project is solely a huge benefit for our residents and for the environment, and is of the same flavor as the Lindley Relief Project that is going on right now. So the stream that runs behind Bond Price Terrace by the substation, there were overflows in there, just as there are in the River de Pere. So I think I saw the graphic there. Okay, so if we look at this overall graphic, we'll see a highlighted line there, and that is what they call the alignment. That is where the new sewer main is going to be constructed. And it will start downstream at the right end of the picture, which is behind the North Price area by Murphy Mechanical and so on, north of Public Works. And it'll proceed westerly and across the railroad right away behind Rothwell Heights, cross under Dealman. And most of the construction on the west side of Dealman will be on the drive lane of Dealman Rock Island. Okay, so they're going to work through there and ultimately terminate north of the railroad tracks in Overland. This project has two impacts in Indian Meadows Park. There are some sanitary sewer segments, if you zoom in a little bit closer to, there we go, that will be abandoned So when the new main is installed, these segments that I've shown right here will no longer be needed. And then the north-south segment in highlighter color, that'll be a new sanitary sewer going in of much larger capacity. I think it's 27 inches in diameter. And then closer to where the restroom area is, there's another segment that'll be abandoned. And that segment has to do with, or happens to be where our restroom connects to the sanitary sewer. So, so we have to construct a new sanitary sewer lateral in that, again, that highlighter color area. So just before I dive into some of the details here of what we've been working with MSD, does anybody have any questions about the project in whole?
If I could, you said we need to
Right,
build
right.
a new restroom lateral. Is that literally we, us, the city, or is that what
So
MSD is
I'll
gonna
get
do?
to that
Okay.
in a minute of why we've chosen the path we're on, but just overall about the project. Okay, so just schedule wise, the MSD is going to be, if they haven't already, they will be putting this project out to bid this spring with the intent of beginning the project sometime late this year. And it will be between 18 and 24 months is the projected schedule duration. Okay, I thought you were getting ready for a question. Okay, okay. So what have we been communicating about, and how are we trying to negotiate these two things with or work with MSD to create a benefit for all parties? The first thing that comes to mind is how are we going to, work with MSD contractors in conjunction with our Parks Master Plan improvements and our Centennial Greenway construction. And when you put an alignment on the schedule, if they were working from the beginning side at North Price, by the time they would be working on Dealman Rock Island and begin work crossing into the park, we would have much or long since completed the Centennial Greenway and Parks Master Plan improvements. Okay. So what we did was we first of all, as soon as we knew that MSD was going to need to begin this do this construction at some point, we passed on that information to the design team working on the Greenway and the design master plan. So they have not planned any improvements in this new easement area that we're requesting, so that MSD's contractor would come in and build, have to tear out our new work. Okay, so that's the first thing we did. So any of those areas, we're not going to be removing any new work. For the new lateral construction, we asked MSD to reimburse the city for the relocation costs so that we can maintain control of the project. And what we've done is I actually have the project out for bid right now so that we can have that ready to go in conjunction with the Parks Master Plan projects. And then when MSD comes in to abandon the main, they won't have any impact to the park. Okay. So if we go back to, can we show easement A? That's a little bit further down. Okay, so easement A right here, and if you zoom in just a little bit on that area, this would be the work limits to construct a new sanitary sewer segment. And if you look, it goes all the way from Huron Drive, almost over to the fence by the river to Pear. And had we not negotiated something with MSD, sometime after we've completed the Centennial Greenway and our Parks Master Plan, the contractor would come in and build a fence that would bisect our park for some duration of at least a month. Okay. So what we have asked to do is that MSD is going to come in the winter of 2023 before the Greenway, and maybe at some point we'll have some Parks Master Plan improvements. And in the area of where the trail is going to be constructed, they are going to install a sleeve underground that will be a conductor for the new sewer pipe to go through underneath the trail. That way, when they come back around sometime in maybe 2024, and if we can go to easement B now, the worker will have two discrete work zones on either side of the Centennial Greenway. One zone on the north, which they will access from the River de Pere side and Dealman Rock Island, and the other zone that they will work from Huron Drive to, and on either side, they'll have access to the sleeve to slide the new sewer pipe through, okay? And they will not bisect our park and cut the Centennial Greenway in half. Okay, so in essence, we've worked with them to negotiate this as part of the easement request so that they can come by at a later date and not interfere with Centennial Greenway traffic. I've gone through that kind of quickly. Does anybody have any questions about the sequence, about what we're asking them to do?
Councilmember Knox.
Yeah, Mr. McGregor, I'm a little confused. Do you know where the concrete overflow water, that will still be there?
Yes, if you scroll down just a little bit and zoom in on the cross-section profile up just a little bit more. There you go. Now zoom in. And you see on your left where that's the profile of the River de Pere, is that notch. So that will remain. Actually, what they told me is they're going to do a trench type excavation all the way across the River de Pere. So those concrete panels will be removed. They will dig down to the profile of the pipe, which is between the two manholes where the mouse is going back and forth, install the pipe, and then they will pour those panels back in place.
Okay, so the water will still go over those panels then?
Yes,
correct?
yes. The new sanitary sewer, the larger sewer, will be a couple feet below the bottom of the concrete portion of the River de Pere channel.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Councilmember Waldman, I saw Councilmember Knox first. You had a question as well.
Okay.
Councilmember Carl? did
I
you
do
have any-
not.
So I did have a couple questions. So one of them, I think, and I think you answered this, was how does this affect the park improvements? So the park improvements is going to be sandwiched before
So
and after?
I had one more attachment, Barb, that showed the section of the park's master plan.
Okay.
And that was literally one sheet that I pulled out of the whole park's master plan.
Mhm.
And you'll see the area that was reserved as easement area for this project.
Okay.
So here are all of the improvements.
Okay.
And if we zoom in closer to Huron Drive between the improvements and the parcel number 40, it's hard to see the dashed lines in there, but you'll see upside down and see something that says SAN there. And that's the outline of the easement area for this construction.
Okay.
And you can see we don't have any improvements going that overlap in that area.
Very good. And then I also want to know, will this be as invasive as the project along the path? Or it may even be more so?
Well, so there isn't as much vegetation. I think a lot of what they've done along the St. Louis City water right of way
Mhm.
actually did us a favor. They removed a lot of honeysuckle, which was really quite good and opened up the area. But there isn't much vegetation here for us to remove. And they did try to plan the alignment in a gap of some trees where, trying to minimize that. But it is a big trench. Okay. And part of what they're going to do in this project is after the initial work that happens in the winter of 2023, the restoration they're going to do adjacent to the trail is just going to be seed and straw. But after they're finished with the final work of the complete new sewer, everything will be restored with sod. And if anybody had a chance to look at what the trenches were on Bond Price Lane and Terrace on the beginning of the Lindley Relief Project,
Right.
it was a royal mess for a long time. But once they cleaned it up and put the sod in, it really looked like they weren't there, and might even be better grass than was before. But make no mistake about it, it's a big trench.
Mhm.
Part of what they have to do for a project is, because this whole sewer system is active, they actually have to pump bypass so that they can construct and still have flow. So there'll be a period of time where they have a sewer opening with a suction hose in it and a giant pump that'll bypass all the sewage to another section of the main while they're working to construct the new one. Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
More questions, I'll go ahead and take advantage. And Bruce, it is really more of the communications to the neighbors and to the homes that will be impacted, that I don't know, could be impacted by the construction one way or another. That's what
Absolutely.
I'm gonna want to know, what has been done there. And I don't know if right now is where you want to address it or if it's
Sure.
further down in your
So
presentation.
we already had, well, we hosted for MSD a public engagement here once about the project ages ago. I don't, it was long pre-pandemic. But there'll be more. And we do have part of the communications with MSD has been getting the immediate construction and engineering contacts to share with the community about the project. And just like the Lindley Relief Project, we did have an open house here too, when that project began to engage with the community. Or MSD did not. We hosted MSD, facilitated.
Are you saying that's what's going to happen with this project as well?
I would very much would expect it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Pro Tem.
Thank you. If there are no more, we'll call for, I'll ask for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-220, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an easement deed and agreement with the Metropolitan Sewer District for a tract of land within the Indian Meadows Park.
There a second?
I second that.
Please call for the vote.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes,
Councilmember Knox,
Yes.
Chairman Morrell,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you.
Madam Pro Tem, I do want to follow up with a question to Bruce, just from my own understanding it. So in here, it does say to enter an easement and deed agreement. MSD didn't have an easement in this area that we're dealing with, that we're now saying yes to them.
Because there's a new alignment, they needed a new easement. So they had easements through the areas where the sanitary sewer is getting abandoned, but they needed a new easement to go further north.
Thank
That,
you.
that just made me think of something. I'm sorry. Just quickly, I'm curious. Do the abandoned easements go away?
They vacate, once the project is done and those old pipes are grouted, we will ask MSD to vacate the easements, and perhaps the city attorney has better terminology for how that goes. I've always called it vacating an easement, but I don't know the legality of it. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Technically, they recorded the vacating easement.
Okay.
One of the things I'd like to just, because when it comes forward to the council, there's been a lot of, you see the end result of a lot of work. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the number of hours that Bruce has put into this, this project. And a couple of things that tell you when you have really good people in your organization. And one is when they proactively identify possible issues. And then, which he did. And he said, wait a minute, this isn't, and then he talked to the people, and then he tried to get an understanding of the project. And they're used to someone working within their own time frame, and they don't see a trail as a big deal. But we all know what it looks like when you have put in something new, and then within months somebody comes back in and tears it up. And so we don't even know the timing necessarily of the Centennial Greenway. So it could be it could possibly be that this could happen before. Probably not, but I just think it's he did a lot of negotiating, a lot of work on behalf of the city, on behalf of the residents, on behalf of GRG, Great Rivers Greenway, to really make this work. And it comes here and it's very, it's understandable. It'll occur and there won't be anything that people will notice. So it gets missed. If we mess up, then people notice.
Right.
And so for that reason, I just think it's important for the council to understand that we had a great advocate in our public works director.
And
Thank
Mr.
you.
McGregor, it's so noted, but also you bring it to us and you simplify it into layman's terms. So for those of us on the city council and those of people that are listening tonight or go back and listen, you've made it really easy and coherent.
Thank you. And,
So,
and two
thank
things,
you.
Nobody's happy to have a backhoe or a piece of equipment show up in their backyard. And it's for, I just don't think people really see the benefits and who does, who really goes out and looks at a stream and says, oh, I can see the pollution in there or this or that, it's hard to recognize that in our busy lives. So these are important projects. And I know a handful of residents certainly glad not to worry about their basements every time it rains and certain things like that.
I've been there.
Yeah. And the other thing I just will add, this is working underground. The engineers on this project, they do their best on design, they do core samples and all this geology. There's a risk by the time they get over to us, all this planning could be, a distant memory and we could be working on something new. This is our best guess, in planning and engineering that this is what's going to happen, but there's still risk that these designs may need to be changed when we get to this phase or they get to this phase of the project.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Next item, please.
Number 10, hearing from citizens, part 2.
Would anyone else care to speak tonight? Okay, I guess we'll move on to item number 10.
Item review and approval of minutes is next.
So I'd like to see if anyone on the council has any edits for the minutes from February 22nd, 2022.
I
or
do
for
not.
Session on March 1st.
I do not.
Motion?
Madam Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve minutes from the regular meeting of February 22nd, 2022, and the minutes from the work session of March 1st, 2022.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second,
Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
yes.
Chairman Weil,
Yes.
motion passed.
Next item, please.
Item number 12 is the city attorney's report.
Evening, everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit about fences. Last summer, the Missouri legislature adopted a statute 67.494. And that statute pertains to, quote, physical security measures on private property. Right? What the statute does is preempt the entire field of legislation regarding the regulation of physical security measures around private property to the complete exclusion of any order, ordinance, policy, or regulation by any village, town, city, including any home rule city or county in the state. It goes on to say any existing or future order, ordinance, policy, or regulation in this field is or shall be null and void. So the first observation that I would make is that this is a restriction against the authority of municipalities. It is not a restriction against subdivisions. As we've talked many times before, subdivision indentures are essentially contracts between neighbors, and they're privately enforceable, have nothing to do with government. So this regulation pertains only to local governments, cities and counties. Second, if you read this section broadly, it opens up just a whole can of worms on what is preempted by cities. And I don't mean to be silly or alarmist, but you read this section broadly, it theoretically could allow moats, electric fences, bamboo screens, or other heavy vegetative screening right on the fence line in the area of the sight distance triangle, obstruct traffic views. It could, we have decorative fences. It could pertain to that. It could pertain to chain link fences, which we don't allow. It could say all of this is open season. So if you read it broadly, it is a terribly preemptive act by the legislature, and it really can destroy what a lot of people view as a fundamental part of community and establishing a community. And I never get to quote Robert Frost, and I think it's Robert Frost, but good fences make good neighbors. Really, really tall, nasty fences can protect you or keep you from your neighbors. Anyway, so I understand the Creve Corps has essentially readopted its fence regulations under a theory that this is not, frankly, I don't know. I can't speak for Creve Corps. I don't understand their legislation. And this is not any kind of, I don't mean to disparage Creve Corps in any way, shape, or form, or any other city attorney who feels like this is the way to go. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The statute still allows cities to regulate the aesthetics of physical security measures, and still allows cities to require access to the public right-of-way, sidewalks, utility easements, still allows the cities to regulate structural soundness of physical security measures, or changes to the drainage of property. So I would say that, for instance, on the one hand, this legislation says, okay, you can't prohibit the use of moats or barbed wire fencing in your town. I would say, well, moats and barbed wire fences are pretty ugly, so we're gonna regulate those aesthetics by prohibiting them. Otherwise, what does that mean? Your barbed wire fence has to be nice and shiny at all times? I don't know. But and structural soundness of physical security measures. I would posit that if a physical security measure poses a danger to people on the right of way, or people on sidewalks, or people in the area, then its structural soundness is in doubt. So what I guess I'm trying to say is, the way I view this as, I try to view this differently. I see specific reference to physical security measure, which isn't defined in state law. So what does that mean exactly? You read it broadly, does it include fencing? Yes, I suppose it could reach that far, but I would take the legislature at their word, and we can say confidently, I think, that the Olivet City Code doesn't regulate physical security measures. We don't have any legislation that does that. And we'll probably never have any legislation that does that. By the way, there is one statute that defines reasonable security measures as those precautions that a reasonable business owner would implement in a particular area to guard against criminal acts or harmful acts. So I don't think that's what fences are about in local governments. I mean, what they're about is aesthetics, privacy, establishing some kind of boundaries with your neighbors so that everybody gets along, and really doesn't have very much at all to do with the prevention of crime or the prevention of vandalism. Could you read it that far? Yeah. But the purpose of the fence in a developed community, at least in the city of Olivet, is much more those aesthetic and social reasons rather than it is the prevention of crime or prevention of vandalism to property. So I would read it that way and suggest that, by the way, when Creve-Coeur redid their ordinance, they still have the same regulations that they had before in terms of size and shape and all the other things. So I don't get it. I don't understand why they did that in that particular way. But I would view it as fencing being just in our city being substantially different from what was intended by this statute. And if anything, getting together with Mr. Trejo to perhaps tweak the existing code a little bit to recognize that and to maybe specify in there some of the statutorily recognized authority of cities in terms of aesthetics, access, and structural soundness. So we could tweak that a little bit. Ultimately, if somebody comes along and says, look, I want to put an 8 feet high fence with barbed wire at the top, and this is a physical security measure, and your ordinance doesn't apply, well, we might be having a fight at that point. But I would just, do what we can and cross our fingers and hope that we don't run into that situation.
I mean, you're the attorney. It was only brought up in the municipal league meeting. I felt obligated to bring it back.
I understand. It's just like a lot of state legislation sometimes. It's just a little bit confusing as to exactly what it means and how they intended it to apply here.
Actually, it was funny because I had sent an email about this last week, whenever it was, and Carlos and I spoke about it this today. And we too were a little bit confused by what we would need to change in our own ordinances.
And
so it was,
My question is not
yeah,
to ask to change.
no.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
No, we were just, it was because it became kind of a larger discussion item at the meeting. And I think you and I spoke about it a little bit, and I was a little confused by, we were a little bit confused. So that helps clarify it for us as well.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize that the mayor has joined us in time to make the motion to adjourn. Sydney, would you like to make the motion to adjourn?
I second that.
He's skipping right ahead. By the way, Rick, great job tonight. We made a great team.
Do we need to call for a vote or just we're adjourned?
No. Second of an adjournment is we're adjourned. So,
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for a good evening.
thank you.
Glad I can make it.